The King's Avatar, Chapter 1581 3-minute coincidence, audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1581, 3-minute coincidence. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. It was as if a tempest had suddenly burst onto the scene, a match between Yishu and Josekai. The former versus current number one would be a sensational confrontation. But at first, even the news reporters didn't have high hopes for it happening. Yishu playing first was a given at this point. On the other hand, Samsara had always acted according to convention, placing their ace player at the third or fourth position. The likelihood of these two encountering each other in the group arena was minuscule. Even if Samsara wanted to break Yishu's legendary win streak, their team had another reliable 1v1 expert, Sun Xiang. Placing Sun Xiang first and then having Josekai guard the third or fourth position seemed to be a more likely lineup for Samsara. Sun Xiang and Yishu had a lot of history between them as well, but their confrontation had already peaked at the Challenger League finals last season. Yishu had left Excellent Era and then led Happy to eliminate Excellent Era. It was a fierce slap in the face to Excellent Era and his successor, Sun Xiang. The story had ended, and the media had been satisfied with the conclusion. Bringing it up again wouldn't bring anything new to the table. But seeing that it was unlikely for a confrontation between the current and former number one player, it seemed like they would have to settle for the next best thing. They could talk about Sun Xiang's growth in Samsara, whether he had walked out from the shadows of his past failures, and so on. As it turned out, there was no need for any of that, and the media wasn't at all sorry. Compared to a match between the former and current number one player, who cared about a revenge story for Sun Xiang. The reporters were ecstatic. Everyone was excited. Even the people who felt like Samsara's arrangements might not be the most optimal move were hyped for the match. Yishu had once been the dominant number one player in Glory, but after his retirement, Josekai had taken that title for himself. Between the two, who was truly number one? The outcome of a 1v1 between the two players would be the most persuasive support for one side, even if making a conclusion from a single match was rather negligent. Why hasn't it started yet? Both players had entered their respective player booths, but it wasn't yet time for the scheduled match to start. Their thoughts showed how hyped they were for this match. To think they would send Josekai to start. The pro players were discussing this topic amongst each other as well. They were very curious too. But today's referee wouldn't be swayed by the hype. He knew that everyone was waiting impatiently to see the fight, but he still followed the schedule strictly, waiting until it was 8 o'clock sharp. Begin. All sorts of sound effects and lights came on to hype up the audience. Was there really a need? Not really. The finals was hype in and of itself. Lights, sound effects. At this moment, they couldn't hold a candle to thunderous cheers and applause from the crowd. The characters were loading. The map was loading. As for the viewers watching in front of their TV and their computers, they were listening to Pan Lin and Li Yibo talking rapid fire. There were too many things to talk about, and the two were scrambling excitedly to get their thoughts out. To listeners, it was almost like a bombardment of words. Map, Dripstone Cave. Although the two commentators were fighting to speak, the content of their commentary was on point. The things that they need to talk about were talked about. The map had finished loading. For this match, Samsara had chosen Dripstone Cave. Oh. This map. The stalagmites and stalactites in the cave aren't actually packed together as tightly as a forest, so even gunners have a good amount of room to maneuver around in. Li Yibo wasn't sure how to describe it, so Pan Lin immediately picked up on the explanation. Good doesn't do it justice. The way the stalactites are arranged make it extremely suitable for gunners. Large open areas aren't necessarily the best for long-range classes like gunners. Terrain that provides cover for them is very advantageous for them too. Liebo added, all in one breath. For Samsara, who has Josekai, this map seems to be quite favorable for them. Pan Lin followed. Although Yishu's unspecialized can play up close or from afar, the unspecialized is far more threatening up close. As a result, this map isn't as favorable for his unspecialized compared to Josekai's sharpshooter, Liebo said. By choosing this map, Samsara takes the upper hand first. Pan Lin said. The map was still loading, and the two had already gone back and forth and said so much. Okay, it's done loading. The match has officially begun. Quote, this sort of announcement was oftentimes Pan Lin's responsibility, so he had more experience timing it. Liebo was just about to say it, but in the end, he still fell behind. Dripstone Cave took place in an enclosed circular cave. Mineral formations were scattered all throughout the area. These were the one special feature of this map. As Liebo had analyzed the dripstones, the stalagmites and stalactites weren't densely packed together. For a practiced sharpshooter, there was a lot of space to maneuver around in. It could be considered a very technical map. Josekai was considered the #1 player in Glory at the moment. His mastery over his class didn't need to be said. In addition, Samsara had chosen this map, so there was no doubt about his familiarity with the terrain. Cloudpiercer walked lightly and quickly. The broadcast switched it over to his perspective to let everyone see how he moved. As for Yishu, he didn't move as freely or confidently as Josekai. Starting from his very first step, Lord Grimm moved around very cautiously. He would constantly be looking around, taking careful note of where he had already gone. He clearly wasn't as familiar with this map as Josekai. Under these circumstances, choosing to move in a roundabout manner was standard, and Yishu was no exception. The only notable part was that the detour that he took was very large. It didn't look like he was planning on circling around to get behind his opponent, but rather to get as far away as possible from him. A minute passed. If the two sides had chosen to go straight towards the center, sparks would already be flying. But right now, a minute had passed, and the fight that everyone had been waiting for was nowhere to be seen. It was all because Yishu's detour was too excessive. He probably wants to explore the map first, Pan Lin said as he watched Yishu's Lord Grimm hug the wall and go around in a big circle. Yishu might not be familiar with this particular map, but he should have experience with this sort of terrain. He shouldn't need this much time to get used to it. It seems like he's being very prudent with this match, Liebo said. Of course he needs to be prudent. His opponent is Josekai. Pan Lin said. Josekai. Josekai. A burst of thunderous cheers erupted from the crowd. Even though nothing had happened for a minute, the passion from Josekai's fans hadn't diminished. The fight between the former and current #1. They didn't care about it. In their eyes, Josekai was without a doubt the best. Their excitement for this fight was because they were waiting for Josekai to win and settle this debate once and for all. A minute had passed. The hype was still there. A minute and a half. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. The hype was still there because the two still hadn't started fighting yet. As for Pan Lin and Liebo, they were starting to run out of things to say. WashOurWorldAudio.com. The map wasn't large, so if two had just been randomly wandering around, they would have likely bumped into each other during these 3 minutes. However, the two seemed to move along parallel lines. Even now, they had yet to meet. Was he deliberately trying to avoid fighting? It was hard to tell. Besides the big detour that Yishu had Lord Grimm take in the beginning, he seemed to be actively looking for Josekai, but the two never seemed to be able to find each other. Was it all just a coincidence? Everyone was speechless. The referee wasn't sure either. He didn't see any illegal conduct. An intervention under these circumstances would require a lot of courage. Moreover, this was the finals. His interference could affect who the final champions would be. He didn't want to make an intervention. He felt like if neither of them were deliberately trying to avoid the other, the two should soon meet, but this had already lasted for 3 minutes. 3 minutes wasn't that long, but on the glory competitive stage, 3 minutes of nothing was enough to extinguish a lot of enthusiasm from the crowd. The excitement for this fight was crumbling by the second. The Josekai fans had stopped cheering at this point, instead choosing to mock and deride Yishu. In their eyes, Josekai was not at fault. On the other hand, Yishu's detour at the beginning looked to be the reason. Former versus current number one. What a joke. Anyone who had been hyped for that was truly blind. Too naive. The pro players heard the derision from the crowd and disagreed with it, especially the older pros. How could Yishu be avoiding the opponent? Especially on the competitive stage, avoiding the opponent wouldn't result in anything. Did you think this was the online game? You couldn't avoid a fight forever. Victory would be decided one way or the other. The two would have to fight. It was just that 3 minutes of nothing was indeed quite strange. Do you think it's a coincidence? Everyone was asking each other. They were wondering if it was all just a coincidence. The majority of the answers was no. Look at it from a bird's eye view and pay attention to Yishu's positioning. Zhang Xinji said. The projection technology didn't show the match from this view, but the large screen in the stadium displayed it. Apart from the projection technology, the crowd also had a large screen displaying a live broadcast. Besides an exciting live atmosphere, the stadium provided an additional viewing experience that those sitting in front of their computers or TV couldn't get. A bird's-eye view had always been an advantage that the live audience had over the viewers watching from home. And this bird's-eye view revealed the secret behind these 3 minutes of nothing. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1582. Web audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1582. Web translator, Nomyami editor, Nomyami. Positioning. Zhang Xinji reminded everyone, and so everyone took a look at Lord Grimm's position. Because the map cave was an enclosed space, the bird's-eye view showed 2 layers. The cave ceiling was depicted as a translucent layer that overlapped with the ground underneath. For normal viewers, it was easy to get confused, but the pro players had no trouble distinguishing between the 2 layers. After finding Lord Grimm's position through the bird's-eye view of the map, everyone quickly realized what they should be paying attention to. The dripstone surrounding Lord Grimm. The pro players quickly understood the reason why Yishu and Josekai had yet to encounter each other. Luck was a part of it, but the foundation for this luck was purposefully constructed by Yishu. Lord Grimm had been taking advantage of the surrounding dripstone to hide himself. It wasn't as simple as just hiding behind a piece of dripstone. He was carefully keeping track of what sort of cover the surrounding dripstone could provide him. As a result, the surrounding 10 units of dripstone formed a sort of net that blocked the enemy's vision. Lord Grimm would always move towards the area in the net that provided him the most cover. Under this protection, if Josekai wanted to find Lord Grimm, his cloud piercer would need to fortuitously be in a few specific positions. However, what was more depressing for the viewers was that Yishu clearly knew where these positions were, so he would constantly be adjusting his positioning. After recognizing this point, Zhang Xinji turned to look towards his teammate, Shin Miyun. Chin Miyun understood his vice-captain's intent and slowly shook his head. I wouldn't be able to do it. Chin Miyun was a player with exceptional talent as positioning, but he didn't hesitate to reach this conclusion. He wasn't able to move around like Yi Xu could in this map. This sort of positioning requires a lot of experience to do. Han Wenqing explained why Chin Miyun wasn't able to do it. What about you, Captain? Song Qiang asked. Han Wenqing stared blankly for a moment before shaking his head helplessly. I wouldn't be able to do it as meticulously as him. Experience. Han Wenqing didn't lack experience. Positioning was a fundamental part of Glory, and after so many years of playing Glory, his fundamentals couldn't be lacking either. Experience alone wasn't enough to do what Yi Xu was doing though. Yi Xu's positioning required careful calculations, and that wasn't Han Wenqing's strong point. What about you, Wang Gxi? Zhang Xinji asked the person next to him. Hard to say. Wang Gxi shook his head. He understood how Yi Xu was positioning himself, but unless he was there himself, he couldn't be certain. There's no bird's eye view while playing, Wang Gxi pointed out where the difficulty lay. This made many of the players, who thought that they could do it too, wake up from their glee. But so what if he can do it? Quote, no one knew who asked the question, but there was no lack of spite in it. This person was right, though. So far, it hadn't seemed to amount to anything. What was Yi Xu planning? They began trying to figure out Yi Xu's intentions. However, they weren't the first to figure it out because they didn't know what the two teams had planned out before the match. On the sidelines, Samsara's Jiang Botao noticed Yi Xu's actions and quickly realized his goals. Finish him off in a burst of energy. Samsara's Zhou Zekai had come onto the stage with this goal in mind. Samsara wanted to try overwhelm Happy mentally. But Yi Xu used this sort of evasive positioning to destroy their plans. 3 minutes. The two sides hadn't even crossed blows yet, but even if Zhou Zekai won in the end, the momentum that Samsara had wanted to ride all the way through the group arena had already been put to a stop. Only the two opposing teams could understand the subtlety in Yi Xu's actions. The current Happy looked calm and relaxed. As for Samsara, it was as if a knife had stabbed through their hearts, their spirits dampened. As expected of Yi Xu, Jiang Botao had no choice but to accept the outcome. They had sent Zhou Zekai out first to put mental pressure onto Happy, but Yi Xu had already dispelled it. Next, they would just have to wait and see how the battle would turn out. Lord Grimm continued to wander around, using the same positioning tactics. During these 3 minutes of avoiding, Yi Xu became more and more familiar with the map, and Lord Grimm began to move a lot faster. But for a moment, it didn't seem like he would be encountering Cloudpiercer anytime soon. Just when everyone was wondering how long this grind would last, they suddenly heard a gunshot. Without any warning, Lord Grimm raised his umbrella and fired a shot into the air. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the cave. Zhou Zekai clearly heard it. Cloudpiercer stopped, turned around, and then headed towards the direction of the sound. How precise! The crowd cheered. The gunshot had broken through the previous silence, invigorating everyone's spirits again. Cloudpiercer was already moving toward the direction of the gunshot. Lord Grimm didn't move though. He simply stood there, looking around. Most people just thought that Yi Xu was taking the initiative to lure Zhou Zekai here. Right now, he was looking around to find his target. They weren't wrong. Yi Xu was indeed doing this, but there was an even deeper level. WuxRWorldAudio.com. With how Yi Xu positioned himself, he knew exactly which spots Cloudpiercer could come from. As a result, when he looked around, he was only paying attention to these few spots. He was ready to attack the moment Cloudpiercer appeared. Some of these spots were farther than others. The farthest one could be considered mid-range. Yi Xiu hadn't fired a gunshot at any random moment. He had specifically picked this location. At this position, when he and Zhou Zekai finally found each other, the two would be at a relatively close distance, which was more advantageous for his unspecialized. These 3 minutes of avoiding Zhou Zekai hadn't just been to get rid of the psychological pressure from Samsara, but also to pull the snake from its hole and seize the initiative. Cloudpiercer appeared. Of the several possible spots, Cloudpiercer rushed out from one that was neither the farthest nor the closest. Bang bang. 2 gunshots. Yi Xiu had carefully thought up plans for each of the several spots. As soon as he saw Cloudpiercer, he immediately attacked. After firing twice, Lord Grimm rushed out. But suddenly, the glimpse of the grey windbreaker that he had seen disappeared from his sight. Zhou Zekai had seen Lord Grimm, but he didn't immediately attack. Cloudpiercer seemed to be in a hurry, quickly dashing past that spot. He had only appeared for an instant before disappearing. Yi Xiu had tried to seize the initiative, but Cloudpiercer was unexpectedly already gone. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1583. Fake Shield. Audio source: WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1583. Fake Shield. Translator: Nomyami. Editor: Nomyami. The average viewer wasn't able to catch this subtlety. From what they saw, the two had finally come across each other. Yi Xiu made the first move, while Zhou Zekai nimbly evaded it. On the other hand, the pro players also knew that Yi Xiu had tried to create an opportunity through careful positioning. However, the only ones who truly understood the subtleties within this interaction were Yi Xiu and Zhou Zekai. 2 shots. The moment they saw each other, Yi Xiu fired 2 shots at him before he could even react. Zhou Zekai didn't only possess outstanding mechanic prowess. He wouldn't become arrogant because people were calling him the #1 player in Glory, but he wouldn't be too modest, either. Modesty and arrogance could both lead to errors in judgment. Zhou Zekai was confident in himself and could notice the discrepancies in a situation. His opponent had fired 2 shots before he could react. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the conclusion that Zhou Zekai reached. He didn't have a bird's-eye view like the pro players spectating the match, so he didn't know about Lord Grimm's tactical positioning. However, he was able to use his own way to determine that Yi Xiu had the initiative. As a result, Cloudpiercer didn't stop to counter-attack. Without even the slightest bit of hesitation, he dashed right by. As for Yi Xiu, after firing 2 shots, he immediately lost his target. What a guy! Yi Xiu internally praised him. Through that single exchange, Zhou Zekai was able to get a clear grasp on the situation. The title of Glory's #1 player wasn't purely subjective. Zhou Zekai's mechanical prowess, intuition, awareness, and mentality were outstanding even within the pro scene. Yi Xiu understood this point clearly, because it wasn't as if he was unfamiliar with Zhou Zekai. Starting from Season 5, apart from his year of retirement in Season 9, the two had fought countless times on stage. He understood Zhou Zekai's capabilities and how hard he was to deal with. Relying on a single carefully thought-out positioning to seize the initiative and win the match. The thought hadn't crossed Yi Xiu's mind. However, he was still caught off guard by the outcome. He hadn't thought that the opportunity he had created would disappear so quickly. All of the plans that he had prepared instantly fell through. But the experienced Yi Xiu couldn't be intimidated so easily. Change directions. Lord Grimm had initially planned on rushing towards Cloudpiercer right after firing those 2 shots, but with his plans having gone awry, he turned around and quickly moved away to widen his vision. Josei's cloud piercer immediately appeared in his sights from a different angle. Bang 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 bang. Sparks flew. Such dense gunfire couldn't be produced by Lord Grimm's unspecialized. This sort of burst could have only been done by a sharpshooter. Wildfire in his right hand, shattered frost in his left. The grey windbreaker on Cloud Piercer flapped as he moved. Yishu's movements had instead given Josei the initiative. This scene was eerily similar to the previous scene where Cloud Piercer had stepped into Yishu's trap. Josei didn't completely understand Yishu's tactical positioning, though, so this wasn't returning a tooth for a tooth. These two top players were simply taking advantage of the terrain. Yishu had done it through careful observation and precise calculations. As for Josei, Samsara had chosen this map, so how could he not be familiar with it? Gunfire roared. Yishu was at gunpoint. That was exactly the situation that Yishu now faced. Sure. The myriad manifestations umbrella opened. The bullets struck the canvas like a tempest, causing it to shake uncontrollably. The gunfire was too fierce. The stadium screen as well as the broadcast picked out data on the myriad manifestations umbrella. The durability. The myriad manifestations umbrella had a durability of 23. For a shield, this was a very low number. Because of how shields were used, its durability should be much higher than other weapons. A durability of 23 was the durability of the normal weapon. The umbrella could transform into a shield, but its durability didn't change. How low of a durability was it for a shield? Using a comparison was best. Glory's lowest level shield, a level 5 wooden shield, had a durability of 20, which wasn't far from the myriad manifestation umbrellas. In the heavenly domain, many knight players had the level 70 purple shield. Drenched Thorn, which had a durability of 85. And the strongest shield in Glory, the Sighing Wall, owned by Tiny Herb's Knight Angelica, had a durability of 135. A high-level shield with a durability of 23. There was no shield with a durability lower than that. The stadium screen had displayed the umbrella's durability because Cloud Piercer's fierce assault was causing its durability to rapidly decrease. 22, 21. The number was decreasing at a visible speed, showing just how powerful Cloud Piercer's offense was. Run! Chen Guo shouted anxiously from Happy's bench. The durability on the umbrella wasn't just for the shield form, but for the umbrella as a whole. If this continued, its durability would soon drop to 0, and when the durability of an equipment dropped to 0, it would be destroyed and become useless. 19. After just a few seconds, the durability on the myriad manifestations umbrella had dropped by 4. Facing Cloud Piercer's burst, the shield appeared frail and weak. But Lord Grimm didn't run. WuxRWorldAudio.com. During these few seconds, Yishu's Lord Grimm continued to hold up his umbrella shield. It wasn't that he didn't want to run, but that there was nowhere to run to. By widening his vision, Yishu wanted to seize the initiative again, but Josei already knew where Lord Grimm would likely appear from, and now, Josei had the upper hand. He was just one step faster. Yishu could only defend against the attacks. There was currently nowhere close by for Lord Grimm to take cover. As a result, his only choice was to prop up his shield. For the durability on his shield to be decreasing so rapidly, this sort of dense gunfire couldn't be avoided through just movement. There was nowhere to retreat, nowhere to hide, and his umbrella shield wouldn't be able to last much longer. Then, his only choice was to push forward and advance under this barrage of bullets. Charge. The shield form was considered a priest weapon, thus, using a knight's charge wasn't a problem. Amidst a hail of bullets, Lord Grim charged towards Cloudpiercer. Josekai had Cloudpiercer move horizontally in an attempt to find an angle where he could directly shoot Lord Grim behind his umbrella shield. As Cloudpiercer moved, his guns stayed steady. In an instant, he had found the angle, and the myriad manifestation's umbrella hadn't moved to adjust to his movements. Fire! Bullets flew behind the myriad manifestation's umbrella. But there was no one there.